Welcome to the Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association's Patients Come First podcast series, which can be heard on VHHA.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get podcasts. We're a member of the Virginia Audio Collective and the Family Podcast Network, and we're on the radio each Saturday at noon and Sunday at 10 a.m. on 100.5 FM, 92.7 FM, 107.7 FM, and 820 a.m. across Central Virginia, and Wednesdays at 1 p.m. on 93.9 FM in Richmond. Please send any questions, comments, or feedback to pcfpodcast@vhha.com. Again, that's pcfpodcast@vhha.com. And with that housekeeping out of the way, today we're pleased to have Darrell Anderson with us. Darrell is a peer support specialist at VCU Health, where he works with trauma patients, people who have been victims of community violence, such as shootings, stabbings, and assault. He came to this work through personal experience, and he joins us during Gun Violence Awareness Month to speak about his work and what brought him to it. So with that, welcome to the program, Darrell. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
So to start with, Darrell, if you would just tell us about your work as a peer support specialist and what it involves.
My work as a peer support specialist is a lot of things into one. I support the patients. I make sure they're mentally and physically sometimes okay. I make sure mentally they're okay. I ask them questions, and I also give feedback, and I also give them advice on how to deal with certain pain, because I'm dealing with certain pains or was dealing with a certain pain. I basically go there to be their advocate, make sure they want for nothing, make sure they feel like they're not alone.
That sounds like important work, and it's good to hear that you're doing it. And you just said you work with these patients because you've experienced that pain, and we alluded to that a minute ago, so I do want to talk about that aspect of your story. We mentioned that you came to this work through personal experience, Darrell. You are a victim of gun violence and a survivor of gun violence, having been shot 5 times about 2.5 years ago in Richmond. If you would, can you tell us about how that experience changed your life, both in terms of the work you do now, as well as your ongoing physical recovery and therapy to regain your mobility?
To regain my mobility, I've been to 3 therapies now. I've done a water therapy to help. I'm slowly but surely getting there. I don't quit, and that's what I encourage them to do. That's why I would like to be able to work with them when they're in physical therapy, to give them motivation not to quit, not to think that it's hard. I want them to see that if they feel like they can't do it, I will show them that it's possible.
And tell us about your own experience after being a victim and survivor of gun violence and the process that you went through. You said you've been through several rounds of therapy, but just tell us about your own journey there, your experience, and how you developed the attitude or the outlook that now you are able to share with others who are also going through a recovery process.
Well, I was shot 5 times. What changed my overall look in life is that I've seen how close and how easy it is to just be taken, and I don't want people to take it for granted. I always tell my patients, thank God every time they wake up, because it only takes one. And my journey really began in that hospital. I met a caseworker named Darrell Woods. She introduced me to the program. I basically was a part of their team while I was still in the hospital bed, because I basically used to get out of the bed, not walk, but I used to have a wheelchair, and when they asked me did I want to go see the place, I did, but I always seemed to stop in every room and talk. Basically, she did everything, literally. I didn't have to do anything. By the time I got out of the hospital, everything was done.
Well, it sounds like a big shout out and pat on the back to Darrell Woods and everybody involved in your care and treatment team at VCU Health for helping you get to this spot, and also for your own perseverance and your own positive attitude for getting to this place after surviving such a traumatic experience. On the subject of VCU, Darrell, as I'm sure you know, they've been a leader in providing hospital services to victims of community violence in Virginia like yourself. Through the VHHA Foundation, that work is also supported by the grant-funded Virginia Hospital-Based Violence Intervention Collaborative, which provides clinical and post-clinical support services to community violence victims. These HVIP programs are in operation at hospitals in Richmond and Hampton Roads, and they're an example of how hospitals are leading the effort along with other partners to help reduce violence in Virginia communities through effective and evidence-based strategies. In fact, participating hospitals in these HVIP programs have maintained a reduced re-injury rate for program participants. And I think it's important to share this information, Darrell, because it illustrates the positive effect of these programs. And I wonder, from your perspective, you've talked about your participation and your recovery journey, but can you share the ways that you think VCU Health has made a positive impact in your life?
Yes, they made a very significant impact in my life. As you know, being born in Virginia, I used to think MCV was not a good hospital until I had to go there. When I got there, it was nothing but professionalism and great time management. They get everything done. I think that's the best hospital to me. From what I've heard, it actually is one of the best hospitals. So it changed my whole outlook of VCU. It's a great place. It's great for learning, healing, and that's my greatest part is when they don't come back. I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of my patients I still talk to. They call me in the morning. I make sure they call me in the morning. That way I know they're okay and they will stay away from the hospital. I tell every patient I do not want to see you again. In here, I can see you outside. I don't want to see you in here ever again. And so far, I haven't seen a repeat in patients. I haven't seen any.
Well, it sounds like VCU has made a lasting impact on your life, and likewise, you are making a lasting impact on the lives of people that you interact with. So it's really great to hear your story, and I appreciate you sharing it with us, and thank you for all that you are doing to help other people who have experienced violence or traumatic experiences. Before we let you go, Darrell, I do want to ask you two other questions that are kind of a tradition on this podcast. We close each episode by asking our guests two sort of personal questions. And to keep things interesting, what we like to do is we have a list of 10 mystery questions. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to give me two numbers between 1 and 10, and then I'll ask you the corresponding questions.
I'm game for it. Okay, 4 and 1.
Okay, 4. You have shared a lot about your life and your experiences at VCU, but I want to give you an opportunity to share for 30 seconds anything that's on your heart right now, to get on your soapbox and speak about something that's important to you. Obviously, this is a family show, so we want to keep it PG, but the floor is yours for 30 seconds to speak about something that maybe we haven't talked about or maybe we have talked about, but something that's just on your heart right now.
Okay, well, what's on my heart right now is I'm thinking about business, but not like business. I want to start a nonprofit for people with disabilities. I also want to bring up a program to my boss about helping patients that's in physical therapy and being their motivation. So that's really what's on my heart. Just thinking about certain things I can add on so I don't feel like I'm subtract.
Well, it sounds like you're already adding value. And listen, we know a lot of folks in the hospital community, including folks at VCU, including folks in leadership, listen to this podcast. So now that you've said it and got it off your chest and share what's on your heart, I imagine some of those folks may hear some of these ideas that you've shared. So we appreciate you for being candid there. And then you also selected number 1. And that question is, in the hypothetical scenario that you could anticipate your final day on Earth, Darrell, what would your last meal be?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, my last meal will probably be breakfast food, so maybe 4 pancakes, scrambled eggs with cheese, and some potatoes, and an orange juice.
What kind of potatoes? Are we talking about like shredded hash browns? Are we talking about cubed potatoes? What kind of potatoes there?
Any really, not just as long as it's not mashed potatoes, any potatoes.
Okay.
For breakfast, yeah. Like, okay, it can be, I say potato wedges then.
All right. Well, listen, that sounds like a hearty breakfast. And with that is going to bring us to the close of another episode of the Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association's Patients Come First podcast. If you like what you heard, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe so that you know when new episodes are available. And we want to once again thank our guest, Darrell Anderson, for being with us today. He is a peer support specialist at VCU Health and a survivor of community violence. Thank you, Darrell. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.